Tēnā koutou, he karakia tēnei manaaki, te mō te tautoko ki te kōrero e tūnei pai Māori e. Nā mihi ki te mana whenua ki tēnei rohi, mea whenua tēnā koutou. Nā mihi nui ki a koutou i tēnei wā, tēnā koutou. Ko Michelle Brett taku wengwa, noa te pukatai ahau. Ko Byron Williams taku hoa mahi, no o te tahi e. Noa reira, a tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, koutou katoa.
All right, kia ora everyone, my name's Byron Williams, Paramedic, St John. Joined with me with Michelle Brett from Canterbury, Right Care Advisor of St John. We'd like to first and foremost acknowledge the people of this land, past, present and emerging elders. We'd also like to acknowledge Wellington Free Ambulance on the presentation that Jack just delivered. That was awesome, thank you very much. So we're going to hopefully inform you and introduce you to helping paramedics understand the sacred rituals of death and dying in New Zealand Aotearoa with our Maori and Indigenous communities.
He's got a mic.
It's apparently not working. That's all right. Yeah, cool.
Okay, so I'm going to start off by moving us back to go forward, realising that the focus of this session is about paramedics medicine in 2050. Oh, cool. So the founding document of New Zealand is the Treaty of Waitangi that was signed on the 6th of February 1840. It's an alliance between the British Crown and New Zealand's Maori chiefs, and it is a document with multiple meanings and intent, and it has been debated and tested over time. And the importance with it is there are two words in particular, kawangatanga and te rangatira. One's around governance and one's around sovereignty, and the different understandings of what that meant and what the agreement was. But to move forward with our Indigenous people, we need to understand the foundations on how we got to where we are now and how we can do it better. Okay. So loosely the principles were in regards to the treaty. We have partnership of the Māori health sector, so that's around working together with our Māori health providers, our Māori GPs, and as organisations, and coming together as one. And a good example of that is one that Jet just shared before in regards to the naming of the Family Council. Another one is participation, and it's one that the resources allocation and making sure that we involve them. And one thing that we need to do better, and probably you need to do better all over, both across Australasia, or Australia and New Zealand, is actually having your Indigenous people involved at your governance level and at your senior management level, because as we said, like we've heard all weekend, sorry, it's not weekend, but never mind, aroha mai, as we've said, if you don't have somebody to aspire to that reminds you of who you are, or like-minded or looks like you, then you don't have the same sort of outcome or the same sort of journey. And the last one is protection, to make sure Māori have access to the same level of healthcare as non-Māori. And as the stats show, our life expectancy isn't the same as our counterparts. Māori have the shortest lifespan within New Zealand by 5 years. So the other thing we wanted to look at is how we could do Māori health models. Traditional Māori health acknowledges the link between the mind, the spirit, and the human connection with whānau and the physical world. Without our environment and what our environment brings to us, that includes our medicines and the way we used to do things, knowing the tides, knowing what plants to plant, knowing what to harvest, what's going to make us better and what's not, it's hard to get into how we're going to do this. So we also wanted to acknowledge the cultural relevance at the end of life, grieving and death. And I know Byron's going to look a bit more into that in a minute. Okay, until the introduction of Western medicine, there was no division between them. You knew what your tides were, you knew what plants would work to heal, and you'd use them. And since we've already had a good overview of this is again to Whare Tapa Wha, and we've used this as an example. There are other models of Māori health, and this one's the most well-known one, so I won't go too much into it. So again, Professor Sir Mason Drury wrote this one. So as they said, each aspect is interconnected. So you have taha wairoa, so your wairoa, your te taha whānau, your te taha tinana, and then your te taha hinanaru. And the reason I've done it that way is because you have to have your wairoa first, because you have to have your ancestors and stuff linking you in. Then you have your whānau coming together, because you need your mum and dad to come together, otherwise nothing's going to happen. And then you need your te taha tinana, so your physical health. And then finally your mental and social and psychological health as you develop, because we're well aware that you're in your mid-20s before that starts to get to a stage where you know a wee bit more. And so the other two things I wanted to add here is the link of this with the environment and how important that is. Your sense of belonging. There's nothing better than standing on your own marae or your own whenua and going, this is my tūranga waiwai, I live here, I can feel my bones here. And the other one is our leadership and leadership and autonomy. So how does this relate to patient care? The New Zealand healthcare system is influenced by Christian values and beliefs, which is quite interesting after the presentation we saw yesterday. And that the patient is singular. Whereas in Maori customs, and it's still strong sense, even today, it's about the whānau, it's about the collective. And it's not unusual to be at a near death or an imminent death and all of a sudden be swamped by family. So when the Treaty of Waitangi was signed, Christianity was still new to New Zealand. It is accepted in the Treaty of Waitangi that Maori culture and beliefs must be observed. This may oppose traditional health care models that we see today. And this is Maori palliative care culture and palliative care. In times of significant illness, it is common for the family to gather, like I said, together early to support this person right through the journey. And really important to note that they don't get left alone, which is really difficult if we've got someone that's unwell in an ambulance and you can't fit everybody in there, because normally there's 2, 3, 4 people that want to go with you, and sometimes they may opt not to go in, but we need to keep them informed of what's happening, because the message would have gone out to the rest of the family already that you're going to that you're going to hospital, and then it becomes the ED's problem about managing the amount of people that turn up. So and most Māori die at home, and there's still a fear around that, because when you got an ambulance coming to you. And not that long ago, you're looking about 20, 30 years, so not that long ago, our family members never came home. So the ambulance was seen as something to fear. And this is my happy place by the beach.
So for us as paramedics, how does this relate to us? Have a think about it. How, as New Zealand paramedics, does knowing these Māori healthcare models relate to us? Me, New Zealand European paramedic. I do not speak te reo. I do not have any religious beliefs. How does this relate to me? It relates to me in one way and one way only. I joined the ambulance service to help people. Not to destroy their lives, but to help them. To help them in a way that sees fit for them. Not so much for me, but for them. As part of that, we as paramedics need to understand the Māori culture. We need to understand that a lot of our practice and our treatment may be at odds with their culture. In particular, over the last few days, we've heard quite a lot about resuscitation, high-performance CPR method. Great, perfect, survival to discharge, awesome. However, on the other side, in the attempt of trying to save and preserve life, there has been studies conducted in Aotearoa, New Zealand, that sometimes we as first responders are destroying life as well. We're destroying lives of those around us. Those whānau members that turn on up, who we ask them, can you give us a bit of space? Can you let us work on your loved one? Can you just be quiet? What we're actually telling them when we say that is we're telling them to stop grieving. We're telling them to not fulfill their natural cultural process. And that's quite a strong thing to say, yet it's something quite inadvertent for us. And there's been some massive links with paediatric cardiac arrests in New Zealand and us as first responders, including fire service and police, destroying lives inadvertently. However, we as paramedics can play an extremely important part in changing this. We can embrace their culture without affecting our KPIs. What we need to do so, we need to start looking at empowerment. Empowerment of our staff to understand that we don't know these cultures. They're not our culture, but not to be afraid of it. We as staff need to start forming those alliances with other cultures. There's been wake-up calls here in New Zealand over the last 12 months in various industries about how we interact with other cultures. So part of that's building that empowerment with our staff. From there, allowing our staff to start having those conversations on scene, when it's appropriate, of course, to have those conversations on scene with the whānau about what they would like to have respected. What's their individual beliefs? Because every iwi is different. Every iwi has a different transition process of what they believe the spirit's journey through to the underworld is. They have a different timeline. So liaising with them, having that discussion with them. And me, as a New Zealand paramedic, I've seen that done really, really well. Unfortunately, I've also seen it done really, really poorly. I've seen those lives being destroyed, inadvertently. Some of the things we can do when liaising with them is offering really simple things. We're planning to stop resuscitation very shortly. We're just going to look and reassess this patient. However, you were doing CPR when we turned on up. If we start looking at stopping resuscitation, would you like to hold their hand or continue the last bit of CPR for us? Have them involved. That's part of their culture, their natural culture in a patient that's a patient that is dying, is to be involved. That's what their culture over the age has been. However, with our Christian values and our Christianic health system, we have taken that away. Let's add that back into it. Discussing with them what they would like done with the deceased. Allowing them the option of doing a karakia prior to removing resuscitation equipment. Me as a paramedic, since I've started doing that as part of my individual practice, I've not had one Maori family say no, they would not like to do a karakia. It's brief. Why? All blood, bodily fluids, hair, and any product from that person is sacred to them. So that's a little thing that me as a paramedic can do. Doesn't take me any additional time. Yes, it's not my beliefs, but actually I can respect those around me. There's lots of other little small techniques you can do as well. Transporting a deceased person, they always move feet first. Why? That's their culture. It does mean inside a wharenui, they spend a whole heap of time turning the person around to get them outside the door. Tell you what, they notice it. Me as a paramedic, having spent that time in a really small bedroom turning somebody around so they can go out feet first, the family noticed it and reported it back to the organisation I was representing at that time, going, they appreciated that. To me, yeah, I could have been lazy. I could have taken them out head first because that was easy. The family noticed it. They noticed it enough to take that effort several months down the track and thank the organisation that I was part of at that time. We made a difference in cases like that. So as paramedics, part of this is challenging you to go on out, think of different ways that you can liaise and collaborate with cultures that are different to your own. Because we don't dictate what kind of culture we go to, what kind of person we go to, but we don't want to destroy their lives. Thank you.
So I just wanted to add, and in conclusion, the purpose on demonstrating why me and Byron have decided to do this together, because we both have our road experience and we both have what we do in our day-to-day job, but we wanted to demonstrate how listening to each other and working with each other is going to mean a better future for our paramedics into the future when they're working with Indigenous people. It's about asking the questions and listening to the answers, as we've already heard today, and the value that brings. So we'll finish with a wāta, if there's no questions, because we're out of time anyway, so you can't ask any. Kiwis, you can join in because you will all know this one, because we're just going to do te aroha. So I expect to hear some Kiwis. Te aroha, te whakapono, me te rangi mari e tātou e. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you.